The day I died, my husband was being hailed as a literary hero for his new book, Blooming Toward the Sun. It told the inspirational story of how he and the woman he idealized had fought cancer side by side. She was a fellow patient he'd met during treatment. All across the internet, people marveled at the resilience of life and were moved by their love, forged in the face of death. No one knew that every dollar of his treatment had been earned one order at a time by me, working my day job and running food deliveries every night. He beat cancer. But I, worn thin by backbreaking work and irregular meals, developed stomach cancer and died, coughing up blood. When I opened my eyes again, my husband was holding out a cancer diagnosis report. All the foolishness I'd carried from my past life spilled out as tears, and my mind was clearer than it had ever been. I let myself collapse onto the couch. To hell with seeking treatment immediately. First, I was going to put on a show. I was back to the day I'd learned my husband, Liam, had been diagnosed with cancer. Staring at the report in front of me, lymphocytic leukemia. Liam and I had met in college. We dated for 2 years on campus, married after graduation, and spent 4 blissful years as a couple madly, sweetly in love. We'd even been planning to start trying for a baby this year. In my past life, I'd gotten his call, rushed to take time off work, and hurried home. Learning his diagnosis had felt like a bolt from the blue. But when I saw how broken and lost Liam looked, I'd forced myself to pull it together. I knew I couldn't fall apart. Liam was more fragile than I was right then. He needed me. The report advised seeking medical care as soon as possible, so I'd packed in a frenzy and checked him into the hospital that very same day. After all, things like bone marrow donations worked on a first-come, first-served basis. In my hurry, I'd overlooked a few things that later became one of Liam's go-to complaints about me. Evelyn's always so rushed and careless. She never thinks things through. Back then, I'd blamed myself, convinced I'd messed up by panicking. But later, I'd overheard him sighing to another patient. If only I'd checked in a day later, then I would have been in the same room as Willow. His voice was thick with regret. Willow was the cancer patient in the next room, the woman who'd become his idealized love in his book. At the memory, I lowered my gaze. I refused to look at the face I'd once thought handsome. Now it only filled me with disgust. If he regretted it so much, this time I'd give him what he wanted. I closed my eyes, and warm tears slid down my cheeks. They dripped onto my lips, but I couldn't taste their salt. These, I thought, must be all the foolishness from my past life. Finally draining out, I cried harder, and my mind grew sharper with every tear. Sometimes, looking like you're doing well matters far more than actually doing well. I let myself slump back against the couch, tilting my chin up at a delicate 45-degree angle. 4 parts sorrow, 3 parts panic, 2 parts helplessness, and 1 fragile vulnerability, all painted across my face. When Liam saw me so grief-stricken I could barely speak. The weight on his own chest seemed to lift, almost by magic. Instead, he spoke softly to comfort me. "Evie, it's okay. I'm right here with you." This had never happened in my past life. Back then, I dried my tears quickly, steeled myself to be his rock, and rushed to arrange his hospital stay. The whole time, Liam had been like a marionette, utterly defeated. I'd been the one running up and down halls, juggling everything while still tending to his feelings. I never thought that in this life, just shedding a few more tears would make Liam feel so much better. So I kept crying and said nothing. It took a good while before I let the tears slow. Crying, after all, was exhausting. "Liam, we'll get you the best treatment. You're going to get better." Before he could reply, I struggled to my feet. I rambled on under my breath. "You rest. I need to run to the grocery store for the hospital stay towels." And I kept talking, moving quickly, putting on a perfect show of being busy and devoted. Liam's expression softened even more. What a thoughtful, dedicated wife I must seem. Gathering everything would take time. By the time I had it all ready, it would be too late to go to the hospital today. We'd have to wait until tomorrow. Listening to the sound of the shower running, I pulled my phone out of my bag. The hard plastic under my fingertips grounded me. It was the tiny voice recorder I'd bought that morning. I opened TikTok and created a new account. With a blank face, I wrote my first diary entry. Day 1 of my husband's leukemia diagnosis. Getting ready for the hospital. "You've got this. You can protect him." I attached a photo of the diagnosis report and the 2 big bags of supplies I'd bought. All personal info on the report was blurred out, only the word leukemia was visible. I posted it, logged out, and slipped my phone back into my bag. The bathroom door opened. Liam stepped out in a bathrobe, his hair still dripping. My first instinct was to grab a towel and dry it for him. In my past life, I'd done this every single time, terrified he'd catch a cold and set back his treatment. Taking care of his every need had become a habit, etched deep into my bones. What's wrong? Liam frowned, confused when he saw me stand up. Nothing. I'm going to take a shower. I pulled my hand back from the towel and glided it smoothly into the bathroom. In the mirror, the corners of my eyes were slightly red, steam filled the room. Through the haze, I could almost see the haggard version of myself from my past life. I reached out and wiped the steam from the mirror, smoothing away the faint ripple of emotion that had stirred in my chest. The woman in the mirror had deep, steady eyes. There was no trace of the panic a wife should feel upon learning her husband had cancer. Early the next morning, I carried the 2 heavy bags and accompanied Liam to the hospital. I kept reminding myself to play the part of the perfect, thoughtful wife. And what kind of devoted wife wouldn't document every moment? So with a click, I captured a photo of us heading into our battle. In the photo, the woman's back was straight, unbowed by the weight of the 2 bags. She wore a brave, steady smile. Beside her, the man carried a small bag, his smile forced, a permanent shadow hanging over his face. Anyone looking would see a good wife, ready to bear the burden and not break under it. Another diary entry, ready to go. After checking in, Liam was assigned to room 21, the very room he'd pinned after so badly in my past life. Last time, we'd come a day early, and he'd gotten room 22 next door. Right after he'd moved in, a bed had opened up in room 21 right next to Willow's. He'd regretted it for ages. Eventually, he'd even blamed me, saying my haste had cost him the chance to be closer to her. Liam's bed was by the window. On the bed next to his, a girl sat cross-legged. She was in her early 20s, her head shaved bald, reading a book. When she heard us come in, she looked up and gave a bright, sunny smile. "Hi there." Her voice was clear and lively, nothing like what you'd expect from someone with cancer. Her smile threw me off for a second. She was like a splash of bright color in this pale, sterile hospital room. Clearly, I wasn't the only one stunned. Liam was frozen. Then his eyes lit up, sharp and bright as a searchlight. It was a different kind of light than the gentle warmth I'd known for years. Before, he'd been like fruit wine, soft, warm, gently intoxicating. Now the fire in his eyes was like hard liquor, searing, burning hot. "Hi, I'm Liam. Everyone calls me Willow," the girl said, smiling easy and free. Willow was lively and talkative. Before long, the whole room felt lighter, more alive. She was completely unself-conscious about her bald head. "Sure, it looks a little weird, but washing my hair is so easy now." "It's not weird, not at all," Liam said, slow and deliberate, his eyes full of sincerity. Willow blinked, surprised, glancing over at me as I busied myself setting things up. She looked awkward and quickly changed the subject. So it had all been there from the start. In my past life, I'd worked food delivery after my day job just to cover the cost of his expensive treatment. The stress of it all, mental and physical, had made my hair fall out in clumps. Liam had seen it and only felt disgusted. He'd told me to take better care of myself, to stop leaving hair everywhere. "Evie, you can see your scalp. It's kind of sickening. Evelyn, why are you so messy now? There's hair on my blanket." Maybe to Liam, Willow's bald head was a symbol of life's beauty and strength. My hair loss, though, was just the messy, ugly reality of life weighing me down. I didn't pause for a second, making the bed and putting things away. Using my body as a shield, I tucked the tiny new voice recorder into a hidden corner of the room. When everything was in order, I stepped outside the room and called Liam's mother. Not this time. I wasn't going to foolishly carry this whole burden alone. I'd never been the ideal daughter-in-law to Liam's parents. One reason was that my parents had died young. My family had nothing to offer them, but they'd forgotten one thing. When we'd married, I'd only asked for a symbolic bride price of $6,600, and every cent of it had gone back into household expenses. Once, I'd thought Liam was my forever. What was mine was ours, alone in the world. I'd craved a family so badly that I'd given everything I had to build ours, holding nothing back. In my past life, Liam had begged me not to touch his parents' retirement savings unless we had no other choice. "Evie, we still have about $200,000. If something happens to me, I can't leave Mom and Dad with nothing." Back then, I couldn't bear to hear him talk about dying, so I'd agreed right away. I'd thought, "I'm young, I can work extra jobs, we'll get through this." But later, his great aunt had let it slip. His parents had nearly $1 million in eminent domain settlement from their hometown. I'd realized then how little I knew them, 4 years of marriage. And I was still an outsider. In my past life, all of them, Liam and his parents, had stood by and watched me work my day job and run deliveries every night, braving wind and rain, growing more haggard by the day. Not one of them had ever mentioned that $1 million. The phone rang 7, 8 times. I counted silently in my head. 9, 10. His mother's dislike of me showed even in how she answered the phone. She never picked up right away. She always waited until the last second, right before it went to voicemail, before slowly pressing answer. "Hi, Mom, Liam's in the hospital," I said, my voice thick with tears. "The doctor says treatment will cost hundreds of thousands. I don't know what to do, Mom." After a dramatic, tearful plea, I hung up. Still riding the high of the performance, I figured they'd drive in from their hometown tomorrow. Just like last time, I signed up for a delivery app, planning to work shifts after my day job. But this time, I wasn't going to run myself ragged like I had before. Last time, I'd wanted to buy Liam the best possible medicine. No matter the cost, I'd wished I had 8 arms, refreshing the app non-stop to grab orders, riding my scooter so fast it was reckless. I'd almost gotten hit by cars more than once, rain, snow, or shine. I'd worked until almost midnight almost every night to squeeze in more orders. I'd skipped meals constantly, surviving on steamed buns and quick bites. Now though, after a full proper meal, I'd open the app at a leisurely pace. No orders too far away. No orders too heavy. I'd pick a few easy ones, then call it a night and head home. Once I got home, I'd log into TikTok and edit the day's content clips from the hospital, from my delivery runs. Everything. I wrote my second diary entry. Got my husband to the hospital on time. Doctor says treatment will cost tens of thousands. It's okay, I can pick up delivery shifts on the side. The next day, Liam's parents arrived at the hospital. The second she walked in and saw Liam, his mother's eyes welled up. "My poor boy, you've been through so much." Liam hurried to comfort her. "Mom, it's okay. The doctor says it's treatable." A flicker of guilt crossed his face. "I'm sorry I worried you both." The 3 of them looked like a perfect, loving family, and there I was, in my bright yellow delivery uniform, like an intruder ruining the moment. My voice cracked. "I'll take such good care of Liam, I promise." I plucked at the yellow uniform, hanging my head in shame. Times are tough though. I only made $41 delivering last night. Halfway through, I couldn't hold back and started wiping away tears. Liam, who looked a little disapproving at first, softened with obvious emotion. His mother stiffened slightly, then for the first time ever reached out and patted my arm. "You're a good girl. We only have the one son. We'll sell everything we have to get him better." As she spoke, she pulled out her phone. "We left in such a hurry. We only have 36,000 on us. I'll transfer it to you now to tide you over. I'll go borrow more from relatives later." An exact, specific number. It sounded convincing enough. I didn't think it was too little at all. Once you got the first 36,000, the rest would follow. My face was full of grateful tears. "Liam's going to take such good care of you both when he's better." Days slipped by. I kept working my day job and picked up a few delivery orders each night only when I felt like it. I showed up at the hospital every day, never stayed too long, but my camera roll had proof of me there every single night. Every few days, I'd make Liam a nice, nutritious meal, but cooking something new and fancy every single day like I had before. Not a chance. In my past life, the doctor had said nutrition was crucial for patients. I'd pestered the doctor for every detail, from 3 full meals a day to snacks in between. For a while there, the doctor had avoided me in the halls. I'd researched everything online too. I'd followed food creators online, learning to cook all kinds of dishes just to get Liam to eat a few more bites, meals that were both nutritious and delicious. All that hard work from my past life wasn't going to go to waste. On TikTok, my diary entries grew richer and more detailed. I turned everything I'd learned taking care of Liam, how to get specialist appointments, how the matching process worked, how to plan nutritious meals for patients, into helpful, practical posts, one after another. All of it was knowledge I'd gained through countless sleepless nights, endless research, and dozens of conversations with experts. Cancer patients suffer physically, but their families suffer twice over mentally and financially. My follower count climbed from 0 to 10 to 100 to over 30 to 100. People started leaving comments thanking me, saying my posts were helping them. All that effort I'd put in last time, finally, someone was seeing it. Liam still didn't. All he saw now was Willow. When a new needle mark appeared on Willow's hand, his heart ached for her. When she was reading a book he loved, he lit up with joy. They talked about Norwegian Wood, Gone with the Wind, Wuthering Heights. The more they talked, the more they clicked. Willow was like a drug to Liam. When he was with her, he forgot the fear of cancer, forgot to dread the day his life might end. Liam had always had a literary artistic streak. That had been one of the things I'd loved about him. Whenever he rambled on about classic novels, I'd looked at him like he hung the moon. But when I shared my own thoughts, he'd always given me that look like I just wouldn't understand now. Though he and Willow talked for hours, perfectly in sync, I set down the thermos, stepped outside the room, and updated my diary. My husband talking literature with his fellow patient, he's smiling so bright. As long as he's happy, that's all that matters. I wish I could join in, though. I need to try harder. One day, I got a call from the hospital. Liam had found a bone marrow match. The surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks later. That was a whole month later than it had been in my past life. Last time, the second I'd seen the diagnosis, I'd rushed him straight to the hospital, terrified of missing even the smallest chance at a cure. I'd lost my parents when I was young. I couldn't bear to lose anyone else. I couldn't lose Liam. Once a match was found, I'd moved heaven and earth to get in touch with the donor. I'd waited on them hand and foot, prepared special nutritious meals, done everything to make sure both of them were in peak condition. In the end, the donor had been so moved by my dedication that they'd offered to donate 2 weeks early. I'd never told Liam any of it, not wanting to add to his stress. I'd been like a lone warrior, running through the dark, desperate to run fast enough to steal my love back from the grip of death. Every night, I'd drag myself home exhausted, collapse into bed, and fall asleep instantly. I hadn't even had time to cry. When the doctor announced the transplant was a success, I'd broken down sobbing in the hospital hallway. This time, without all my running around and begging, Liam had still found a match. It made all my old efforts feel pointless. I gave a bitter laugh. So I hadn't been as important as I'd thought. The night before Liam's surgery, Willow's condition suddenly worsened. She was moved to the ICU. She was worse off than Liam end stage. There was no coming back from it. When I arrived at the hospital with the thermos, I found Liam completely broken. He didn't even glance up when I walked in. I knew exactly why, but I kept my face neutral. Honey, I brought your favorite braised pork ribs. Want to try some? I looked at him hopefully, unscrewing the lid and handing him the chopsticks. All attentive and caring, Liam swatted my hand away with a sharp crack. A red mark bloomed on the back of my hand. His voice was sharp with irritation. Is that all you ever think about? Food? Evelyn, I thought better of you. How can you be so cold? Your health matters more. I looked flustered, but inside I was sneering, just powerless anger, taken out on me. Last time, I'd been too blind to see he was just using me as a punching bag, like I was some trash can for his bad feelings. Back then, he'd already had the successful surgery and was in recovery. When Willow had gone to the ICU, he'd been low for a while. I'd thought it was just post-surgery side effects, so I'd taken even better care of him, putting up with all his moodiness. Now, his surgery was right around the corner, and Willow's life hung in the balance. But was he this agitated for himself, or for her? I left the room, pulled out my phone, and typed out a new diary entry. The night before my husband's surgery, his friend went back to the ICU. He's on edge and snapped at me. It's okay. I'll stay by his side, praying they both stay safe and healthy. By this point, my account had nearly 20,000 followers. As soon as I posted, the comments filled with prayers and well wishes. A handful of people called out Liam's behavior, saying it was unfair. Others asked questions about the fellow patient. I smiled a little. No rush. Liam's surgery was a success. A few days later, Willow was out of danger. For the time being, they both moved back to room 21, having both stared death in the face. They nearly cried in each other's arms. I stood nearby, wiping away moved tears, and of course, I didn't forget to take photos. After everything they'd been through, Liam's whole outlook had shifted. I could feel his attitude toward me changing. Evie, you're busy with work. You don't have to come by. I can take care of myself. But I had no intention of stopping. I still made sure to show up and be seen every single day. Liam grew restless at first. Then, a few days later, he asked me to meet him in the garden downstairs. From the serious look on his face, I knew the other shoe was about to drop. I slipped my hand into my bag and quietly turned on the voice recorder. Evie, the doctor says Willow only has 2 months left. Liam's voice was heavy with grief. Like a wolf about to lose its mate. If I weren't his wife, I might have been moved by how devoted he sounded. Oh, and? My tone was dry, mocking. Evelyn, do you even have a heart? Liam stared at me like I was some kind of monster. But when he met my calm, steady gaze, he looked away, uncomfortable. Evie, she's all alone. She's so young, so full of life. There are so many places she hasn't seen. So many things she hasn't done. Mum, I said, half listening as he rambled on and on about how special she was. Compared to all his flowery romance, I really was just a practical person, grounded in the real world. Evie, I want to be with her for these last months, openly. You understand, don't you? Liam took a deep breath and finally said what he'd really come to say. So let's get divorced, just for now. Once she's gone, we'll get back together. He sounded so sure I'd wait for him, like it was a given. An orphan girl with no family, who else would I have but him? Evie, you have my word. Fine. Liam froze. He couldn't believe I'd agreed so easily. Evie, you're okay with this? Not wanting to listen to any more of his nonsense, I turned and walked away. In my past life, Liam hadn't asked for a divorce until after Willow died. Maybe her death had made him unable to hide his feelings any longer, or maybe it was that I'd been sick then too, gaunt and haggard, and he'd grown disgusted by me. This time, sharing a room had let them grow closer, faster. I'd expected him to ask for a divorce sooner, but none of that mattered anymore. As I rounded the corner, Willow called out to me, "Can we talk, please?" She wore a frilly little hat on her head, and a soft pink lipstick on her lips, but she still looked weaker than she had before. Gone was the easy, carefree girl I'd first met. She cared about how she looked now. I stopped. I was curious what she had to say. My feelings about Willow were complicated. In my past life, they'd never acted on their feelings, but she'd become this perfect, idealized memory in Liam's mind, and I, his wife of 6 years, had been left in the shadows. But I'd also seen how strong and optimistic she was, how gracefully she faced death. That kind of spirit was hard not to admire. You know, when I went into the ICU last time, I thought I'd never come out. She gave a bitter little laugh. Right before I passed out, all I could think was, I've never even been in love. I feel so guilty for it. It's stupid, right? I used to not be afraid of dying at all. How did I become this person? Willow's voice shook, a faint flush rising to her cheeks. I said nothing, I just watched her. It was like she just needed someone to listen. I know I'm a terrible person, but the doctor says I only have 2 months. Max, her gaze hardened as she spoke, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. I want to know what love feels like, just once, before I go. I only want 2 months. You two have the rest of your lives together. Can you let me have this? She looked at me begging, and all I felt was absurdity. I let out a cold laugh. Let you have my husband? Is that what you're asking? And if I say no, does that make me heartless? Cruel? They'd both already cheated on me in their hearts, and now they were coming to me, begging for forgiveness like that made it okay. Like asking permission would keep their love pure and untainted. Did being the one who was suffering more give you the right to throw morality out the window? Suddenly, the whole thing just felt tedious. The moment Willow had given in to temptation, taken that poisoned apple from the witch. The bright, innocent girl I'd first met had died. Don't worry, I already agreed to the divorce. With that, I turned to leave. Liam's urgent voice called out behind me, "Evelyn, this is my fault. Don't take it out on her." He stepped in front of Willow, shielding her like a mother hen protecting her chick. I didn't bother looking at him. I just walked away faster. I could hear Willow's quiet murmur behind me, "I'm sorry." That night, I slept terribly. I dreamed of my past life. I'd come home, hollow and broken, holding a diagnosis of late-stage stomach cancer. Back then, my first thought had been, what a shame. I'd finally had a family again, and I'd only gotten 6 years with it. I'd pushed down the heartache and decided I wouldn't be a burden to Liam, but before I could say a word, Liam had calmly asked for a divorce. Evie, Willow's strength is what got me through this. After losing her, I realized, she's my soulmate, not you. My ears rang. I thought the pain must be making me hallucinate. My stomach churned. The pain was so bad I could barely think straight. Divorce? It took me forever to process what the word meant. I wanted to ask, if she's your soulmate, what were our 6 years together? Nothing? What about all the nights I worked myself to the bone, never leaving your side? What was that? My mouth opened and closed. but the words stuck in my throat, suffocating me. I clutched the diagnosis report tight, like a fish out of water. I suddenly had no strength left to speak, no strength left to beg him to stay. For years of marriage, built with everything I had, ended like that. Bleak and empty, between all the medical bills. We barely had any savings left. I got almost nothing in the settlement. I saw how happy they were after the divorce. His mother had been so relieved. Thank goodness all the medical bills used up your money. If you'd had more, that woman would have taken half of it. She's got cancer now. Anyway, she'd just be a burden. Good riddance. You have hundreds of thousands of fans now. Son, that orphan girl was never good enough for you. Liam had sat there, saying nothing, his face neutral. He hadn't argued. I saw the landlord call him, telling him to come deal with my things after I died. Liam had just answered coldly, "We're divorced. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. Call someone else." Then he'd hung up, just like that. I woke with a gasp. I could almost taste the blood in my nose and throat, the same metallic tang I'd felt as I died. I unscrewed the thermos on my nightstand and gulped down 2 big sips of warm water. Only then did I feel like I was really alive again. The dream had felt so real. A cold sweat broke out across my back. I couldn't fall back asleep. I got out of bed, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small box. Inside were all the little treasures I'd once cherished so much. A 4-leaf clover bookmark, perfectly preserved. He'd found it on our first date, searching the grass for ages. He'd turned it into a bookmark and given it to me. Said it would bring me good luck. But just like the bookmark couldn't keep the clover alive, Liam's love hadn't lasted. Next to the bookmark was a tiny, cute fox plushie. We'd been walking past a claw machine once, and I'd glanced at it a few times. Liam had gone back on his own, tried for 3 days straight, and finally won it for me. I'd held that plushie and felt like happiness had found me again. My eyes drifted over the bookmark, the plushie, the keychains, and finally landed on the thick photo album. In the photos, a girl smiled bright and happy. Beside her, a boy looked at her with soft, focused eyes, like she was the only thing that mattered. The boy in those photos was nothing like the man who'd asked for a divorce so casually today. It felt like I was the only one still living in those memories. Liam had moved on long ago, leaving me standing there alone, watching his back fade into the distance. I grabbed a pair of scissors and cut every last thing in that box to pieces. Then I threw the whole box, scraps and all, into the trash. I climbed back into bed, and this time, I fell asleep instantly. On the day of the divorce, I wore a brand new floral dress. Liam stared at me, stunned for a second, but he didn't slow down as we walked toward the county clerk's office. The clerk stamped the papers with a sharp thud. 6 years of my life over. Just like that, Evie, I mean it. We'll get remarried once this is all over. Not wanting to listen to his lies, I walked away faster. After the divorce, I didn't have to show up at the hospital every day. No more endless housework. No more delivery shifts after work. I poured all my energy into my job instead. Before long, I landed a huge project. In my past life, I'd missed out on that project because I'd been too busy taking care of Liam and working side jobs. The co-worker who'd gotten it instead had less experience than me. After finishing the project, they'd gotten promoted, ending up higher than me on the corporate ladder. This time, I nailed the project. A promotion was a given. My salary doubled. Things with Liam, though, weren't going as well as he'd expected. Willow had less than a month left. As the end drew near, the side effects of her chemo got worse and worse. The old Willow, carefree and unafraid, might have taken it in stride. But now, with hope and want creeping in, she wasn't fearless anymore. Willow grew anxious, terrified. Forget talking about books and life with Liam some days. She could barely even stay calm. The harder she tried to hold it together, the more she fell apart, and Liam, still recovering from his own surgery, was in no position to be her knight in shining armor. Willow faded like a dying flower, until finally, she was gone. Her death erased all the hard parts of those final weeks. Liam only remembered the good things about her now. Just like in my past life, he started writing their love story and posting it online. I smiled to myself. I've been waiting for this. In his story, Willow was a bright, optimistic girl, free and pure, a beautiful flower blooming in the shadow of illness. The flower had wilted, but its fragrance lingered. Its spirit would never die. He never once said love outright, but every word dripped with it. People online ate it up. They were completely moved. They grieved for the brave girl, and for the lovers torn apart by death, his wife. Not a single mention of me anywhere in the book. I made a new account and left a comment, planting the seed. Wait, didn't the main character have a wife? That one comment set off a firestorm. Thanks to the algorithm, internet sleuths quickly dug up my diary account. They compared every detail from my diary to the details in Liam's book. The internet detectives put it all together. The woman from the diary was none other than the best-selling author's wife. While her husband was cozying up to his soulmate in the hospital, his wife had been working delivery jobs to pay for his treatment. Liam was exposed as a total cheat and a deadbeat. The twist was so dramatic, so perfect, people flooded his book page with angry comments. Then came to my account to offer their support. I logged into my account and posted my first update since the divorce. Divorce, wishing us both well. Riding the wave of attention, my follower count jumped from 50,000 to over 500,000. This windfall of fame and fortune finally, it was my turn. Liam's book, meanwhile, was flooded with 1-star reviews and reported until it was taken down. Liam reached out to me, begging me to help him fix his reputation. I blocked his number, his social media, everything. I let him know I had plenty more evidence I hadn't released yet. Nearly half a year later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Liam. His leukemia had come back. He wanted me to come see him. That caught me off guard. In the dream of my past life, he'd recovered fully. It had never come back. Maybe it was because the surgery had been later this time. Maybe the match was different, and there were complications. Maybe he hadn't taken good enough care of himself during recovery. But none of it was my problem anymore. Liam's parents showed up at my door too, trying to guilt-trip me. After all, you were married once, that bond has to count for something. You have a good heart. I played them a short clip from the voice recorder. That was all it took. They left with their tails between their legs, without a wife to foot the bill. The old couple had no choice but to dip into their eminent domain settlement to pay for their son's treatment. But even after blowing through half their savings, Liam died anyway. Maybe his conscience had caught up to him. Before he died, he called me to say he was sorry. I didn't say I forgave him. I just hung up, cold and indifferent. I looked down at my clean bill of health, at the brand partnership offers flooding my inbox, at my salary hitting my bank account, and I felt steady, at peace. Without Liam in my life, I was thriving. I'd been right all along. He was nothing but bad luck for me. Hey there, could you rate this story in the comments? Use a scale of 1 to 10. Please, I'm begging you. It really means a lot to me, and if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit follow.